What's up, you guys? Stoopzz back again with another video, and today I'm bringing you my top melee classes going into Battle for Azeroth, or the first couple months of Battle for Azeroth. It really doesn't matter. Now, before I make this video, I do want to address the one guy that's going to be in my comments that goes like, Stoopzz, don't make videos like this. It hurts class diversity, and you're ruining the game. I'm not making this video for like the $5 that it's going to earn me. I'm not making this video for the potential subs that it might bring. Okay, maybe a little, but I'm serious. I'm really not hurting any game diversity. I'm just giving you guys my advice. People click on this video because they want to know what classes to play. If you don't want to take my advice, don't take it. But for the rest of you that do want to take my advice, I'm going to give you 3 to 4, maybe 4 classes that I think are a great start for any beginning player, returning player, players that haven't played in a long time, or even players that have played, the past couple months or years of Legion and are looking to pick up a new melee class going into Battle for Azeroth. Now, mind you, this video is made for August 3rd of 2018. However, I do believe that this list will hold strong throughout the entirety of the expansion. Is it entirety or the rest of the expansion? Because these classes always seem to do well. Number 1, Warriors. Warriors always seem to do well. They always have a place in the expansion. They're always good going into an expansion. I can't even remember a time where Warriors were bad. They're also decent in RBGs. Teams usually pick up a Warrior for the Mortal Strike effect, and in World PvP, they're not the best, but they can hold their own, especially if you play Fury. Fury is a great 1v1 spec going into Battle for Azeroth, so they definitely have their place. Protection Warriors are decent tanks, so Warriors are always just a solid class to pick up. And when you look at competitive play, they're one of the few classes that work with casters and double melee, right? You have Turbo, In-Hand Shaman Warrior, Demon Hunter Warrior, which will probably make a return. We have Death Knight Warrior Healer. We have so many of those double melee classes that work well with warriors, and then they have caster classes like Warrior Mage Healer, Warlock, Warrior Healer, Ellie Warrior Healer. There are so many different variety of comps that work and revolve around warriors being in their comp, just because they can sit on a target for a long time and just deal unhealable damage. Mortal Strike is a real thing now going into Battle for Azeroth, and it was a real thing in Legion. And now that gear does matter in PvP, warriors scale pretty well off gear, and as the expansion goes on, they're going to start dealing a lot more damage. Now, another thing to keep in mind here is warriors have not been nerfed yet. We haven't seen a change to warriors going into Battle for Azeroth, and right now they're one of the few classes that are really going under the radar, and I highly recommend people pick up classes like that. Do not pick up a class, well, you can't really now, but do not pick up a class that you think is going to be extremely overpowered, that everyone knows is overpowered, because it's going to get nerfed. And I'm not saying that that nerf is going to last forever. No nerf lasts forever. Classes, at one point in the expansion, every class always does well. It doesn't matter if it was nerfed in the beginning, or it's going to get nerfed, or if you're worried it's going to get nerfed. It will come back and cycle back again like it always does. Every class always does well at some point in the expansion, but warriors right now are going under the radar. I'm not saying that they're not going to get nerfed, because they're for sure going to get nerfed, but you're going to have a nice start going into Battle for Azeroth. They're always relevant, and I highly recommend warriors to anybody who's new to the game, who's played the game for a while, because they're not that difficult to pick up. They're not too advanced in their toolkit, and they deal a considerable amount of damage. Number 2, I'm going to give this one to Death Knights and like Rep Paladins. They kind of go hand in hand. They're very similar in their playstyle. However, those being Rep Paladins are a little bit more defensive, right? They have off heals. They have Blessing of Sanctuary, which means they can break their allies out of stun, but they're still a very solid class that deals high damage and also have support off heals. Whereas Death Knight, they're a little bit more aggressive, but they're both very slow and immobile classes, right? Is a mobile a word? I think it is. But they're not the most mobile classes in the game, but their toolkits are not too advanced. I would say Rep Paladins might be a little bit more difficult in terms of how many keybinds you're going to have, but both of those classes do really well in Arena. Both of those classes do really well in World PvP, especially Rep Paladins, right? Because they have off heals. If you're looking to do Battlegrounds, Rep Paladins also excel in that. And there's a lot of people that do play Death Knights that you can watch on Twitch. There's a lot of Death Knight streamers, and then my friend Savix also plays a Rep Paladin, and he does stream quite active, so you can go ahead and check him out. That's a shameless plug. And I know Death Knights just got nerfed, but I want to reiterate the fact that Death Knights in Legion were really OP Season 1, right? Death Knights were very overpowered, and then they got nerfed. But eventually they make a return. They get a buff. They do well later. It doesn't matter. I would not pick solely based like, oh, I'm not going to play that class because I got nerfed. That doesn't matter. I mean, just pick the class that you want to play. If you want to play a Death Knight or you want to play a Rep Paladin, go ahead and play those classes. And I'm recommending those classes because I feel like They're decent for beginners. There's a lot of content out there for those classes, and they always seem to do well at some point in the expansion. Number 3, rogues. Now, rogue is a lot different than number 1 and number 2, that being warrior, ret, and DK, because rogues, in my opinion, to be a good rogue, to excel at a rogue, you have to have some experience playing the game. That's not to say that you can't just pick up rogue and for your first class or your first melee because you like it. You totally can, and I advise you to do so if you want to play a rogue. However, there is some skill cap required, or there is some knowledge of the game required prior to playing a rogue, in my opinion. Now, I know a lot of people are watching this video right now, they're saying, Stoopzz, have you not played beta? Stoopzz, have you not played pre-patch? Rogues are overpowered. Now, they did just recently get a nerf. Assassination Rogue saw a nerf. We saw some nerf for some rogue nerfs to the other specs of rogues, that being Outlaw, but Outlaw is still doing insane damage on the beta. I would not pick or base the class off how much damage it's doing currently. I would not pick a class based on those reasons. I'm picking Rogue because Rogue, once again, always has a spot in the meta. It always seems to do well, and if you recall with Legion, right, the same thing happened at the beginning of Legion. Going into Legion beta, Assassination Rogues were insane. All the rogue specs were insane. Outlaw was insane, Subtlety was insane, they were all insane, and then we saw a massive nerf. Now, they got nerfed really hard Legion Season 1, and we didn't see rogues for a couple months, but then they came back, and they were OP for the rest of the expansion, right? All rogue specs were insane once again throughout the entire of Legion. After that nerf, they were still very good after a couple months where people had the ability to get better gear. As we get more gear in the expansion, rogues seem to do well. Rogues scale well off gear, and going into Battle for Azeroth, gear does matter when compared to Legion, where it didn't matter. In Legion, item level was all that mattered, but now that gear matters, rogues scale extremely well off gear. So the better gear you get, the more damage you're gonna do, and with agility classes, they always seem to scale well. So even if you get nerfed going into Battle for Azeroth, which I expect potentially more nerfs to come, they're gonna do extremely well after people start getting gear. It's not a doubt in my mind that once gear starts kicking in, Rogue is gonna start dealing some insane damage. However, that is not a reason, in my opinion, to pick Rogue. If you want to play a Rogue, they're extremely good in 2v2s, they're very good in 3v3s, they're highly sought after in RBGs, and they do amazing in World PvP because you're a stealth class. But once again, to play a Rogue, you have to understand things like DRs, you have to understand like things like, you know, baiting out trinkets, you have to understand when to swap, you're usually the shot caller. There's a lot more to being a good Rogue, in my opinion, than just dealing a lot of damage. You don't want to overextend. It's like playing a ninja. You can't get caught if you're playing a rogue. So I really highly recommend players that have played for a long time and want to pick up a solid class going into Battle for Azeroth. I recommend Rogue. If you're somebody that likes to excel and is going to devote a lot of time into learning the class, then I do recommend Rogue. But the other classes that I named, you know, those being Warriors, DKs, Rets, those are very solid classes that don't require a lot to pick up, or at least get the basics down, whereas Rogue requires a lot more work. And yes, I know I didn't mention Survival Hunter. Yes, I know I didn't mention Enhancement Shaman. There's a lot of great classes out there that you can pick. There's a lot of great melee classes. Play what you enjoy, but these are just my picks going into Battle for Azeroth. But that's it for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give the video a thumbs up. If you have any more questions on my classes or picks, you can leave those in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Try to miss me on my Twitch live stream where I answer all of your guys' questions in depth, and I'll see you guys next time.